is sobering, and of course the juries, in the courtroom they're seeing these photos, but and I pulled, while we were listening to this, I pulled up the names of the list of these kids, and I was looking at 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, and thinking back to the fact that my kid would have been 10 years old at that time.
Right.
So I just...
Yeah, it's heart-wrenching, and that is the reason that we have been given the responsibility and the obligation that we have to protect the public from people like that, or harm like that. And when we don't act, when there's a failure in leadership, and when there's a failure in police action to rapidly intervene, people die. And this is the consequence of what you see when there's a failure to act, or we don't act, or we're slow to respond. And we just cannot have another Uvalde ever again. It just can't happen.
No, we can't. And I wasn't surprised by the defense attorney. He says he asked the photos be sealed, and of course the judge said he'd already done that. But then he didn't really cross. He didn't cross at all. The medical examiner, he said, "I appreciate what you did to document what this monster did to these children." And then because there's, from his perspective as a defense attorney, there's probably not much benefit for the jury to continue seeing those photos of what happened to these children, the devastating injuries that they suffered at the hands of this monster, because he definitely was a monster.
Absolutely. And again, the public expects us to act and protect them, whether it's children, whether it's adults, and we train. That's the thing. We train for these type of encounters. We train for these type of situations so that we're ready to respond to minimize the amount of death, the amount of injuries, and so it's just critical that we act. And we try to frame it, like I said, I think earlier, if this were your loved one, that's at that school, or is at that daycare center or a football stadium, if it's your relative that we're responding to, how would you want that response to look like? What would you want it to look like? Would you want us as law enforcement to do everything within our power, everything that we could do to minimize that type of result? And we have to say at all times that we did our very best, even if the outcome is not the desired outcome, but we did our very best.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that did not happen in this case. Whether Adrian Gonzalez is ultimately convicted in this case, it's pretty clear that that more children died than
needed to.
Yeah, I mean this monster could have been stopped a lot faster, and we'll never know. Could he have been stopped before he ever made his way into that building?
Right.
And those are the things we just don't know. I'm going to text Rebecca and see if she's listening right now.
And I'll throw out too, a locked door at that school would have prevented all of that.
Well, locked door to the exterior, locked classroom doors, and that's why you said y'all train on that.
Right, and we try to emphasize that with our school staff, that the importance of that, because we don't want people to penetrate our schools, get inside school buildings through doors that are just simply left unlocked or not operational, not functional. Well, and so it's all aspects of safety, and it's everybody's responsibility, not just the police, but the staff that works there. It's everybody's responsibility to ensure the safety of the kids.
I'm going to pull her up because I know she's been listening to this, and obviously she's been, she's on her way back, but she was in that courtroom all the way. Hey, Rebecca, I thought we'd get you on the phone and just get your reaction to what we heard, just the description of the wounds that these children had.
I mean, it is very disturbing. I'm sitting here with Josh, the photographer who went with me to Corpus Christi, and we've been listening all the way back because we want to keep up with the trial, and we'll probably go back there at some point. But as we were listening, he was like, "Oh my gosh, like you didn't." I mean, you realize that the children were shot. I just had not heard that there was a child that was shot 13 times. That's I can't even imagine what the parents are going through. And I do want to say that in the courtroom, there's probably only about 4 or 5 families that are there representing the children. I think that this is just too hard on them. They know they've been told, what happened to their children. And I think that some families have just chosen not to be there. They don't want to have to relive this horror. And the judge is sealing the photos, which I think is a good thing to do. No one needs to see all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wasn't surprised by Nico LaHood not wanting to go through this with the medical examiner, because obviously it doesn't behoove his client for those photos to continue to be shown in the courtroom.
Well, absolutely. You don't want to, what are you going to say in cross-examination? I just think that also, though, the reality of why you do reveal that is because, again, as we were talking about, there were children that some probably did die, almost as when they were shot, but others did not die as quickly. And that's going to play into the prosecution's case, that maybe some of them could have been saved. I thought there would be more questioning on that aspect from the medical examiner. Because to me, that would feel like that would be something that would be pertinent to Adrian Gonzalez's case.
Yeah, like questions about, maybe whether or not specific children would have died immediately, or would they have
bled out.
Bled out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I would have wanted to hear maybe a little more questioning on that, so we could have known. I mean, the reality is that some of those children just, died, instantly because of the wounds. But then, others, didn't. They suffered. And that's I think that's so hard. Tanya, you and I are mom. James, you just had, 2 kids. And it's just, to listen to that, it's just hard. This trial is just difficult. I can't even imagine what the jury is also going through. I'm going to ask some of the reporters that I know that are in the courtroom today. There's a Uvalde reporter, and she has been covering it since day one, and she is been sitting in the courtroom both in the morning and afternoon, and has done a fabulous job of covering this for the last almost 4 years. And so I would like to get her perspective, because she's also very close to the families.
Well, and if you're the reporter, as a reporter in that community, you would know everybody. You would feel a deep connection in ways that we couldn't feel, right?
Yeah, something that has struck me as I've been listening to this whole trial and being in the courtroom, sometimes I feel like it's actually the defense that seems to be more compassionate towards the family, the witnesses, the jury. It feels sometimes like the prosecutors are just sort of going through the motions and doing their case, not necessarily warning the jury about. It was the defense, I believe, that said, can you warn them about what they're about to see? And so I have found that to me, Nico LaHood has been far more compassionate towards the witnesses than I have seen the prosecutors. They're like, okay, pass the witness, instead of, thank you so much for, I know this has been difficult for you to come back and talk about this. I have found that very interesting, Tanya.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to, maybe he's just a better lawyer. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's got, maybe it's trial manner. I don't know. I've never, dealt with either of these prosecutors, but it is interesting. And even LaHood going out of his way to make sure that the exhibit was sealed, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what And when the families did an interview after when they nearly got that mistrial, they actually praised the defense. They're like, this guy is a great lawyer. He's, seems very compassionate. They were talking about how difficult they thought it was going to be perhaps to win this case because of the level of, how he's at a high level as a defense attorney.
Yeah. Well, that and as you well know, that's not something you hear very often. I mean, that's a real turnaround.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but no, I will be curious to see how they felt. I mean, I know that there's a couple of parents, but like Jackie Caceres' uncles and their wives are in the courtroom. I did see her parents as well, and then I think there's maybe two other families, and I think again, they want to know the outcome, and they wanted justice, but they they can't sit through there and hear that. And in fact, they actually have victims counselors with the families, and you see them taking care of them and making sure that they're okay. And I do believe that they're even talking about offering counseling to the jurors after this as well.